and begin with a roll call. So Gary Newmare, that's me, I'm here. Eric Fisher.
Here.
Jacob Eltrich.
Here.
Jennifer Brown.
Here.
And we're joined by Craig McBeath and Mark Owens. All right. And Robbie will not be joining us today. I am joining the meeting today from the boardroom along with Craig and Mark, which we'll talk about that under new business in a bit. Did everybody get the minutes and have a chance to, oh, wait a minute. Public comment. Craig, any public comment?
Unmute, so I'm on record. No public comments have been registered.
Okay. Move on to minutes then. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes from our December 2nd meeting?
Yes.
Any comments or questions? I have none. So can I ask for a motion to accept the minutes as presented of our December 2nd meeting?
A motion to accept those minutes.
Second.
Okay. Okay, moving on to our regular agenda then, our annual work plan. Pardon?
We just need to take a quick roll call on the approval of the minutes.
On the minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good. We need a parliamentarian here. Okay, roll call. Eric?
Yes, I accept them.
Jacob?
Aye.
Jennifer?
Aye.
And I, Gary, vote aye. So minutes are approved. Okay, motion passed. Moving on to our regular agenda on areas of study. Mark distributed today some information to Ravi and I regarding the data and privacy information. I have reviewed it and gone over it. Mark, do you have any comments, questions, information to share with the commission?
Well, I think part of what I was trying to accomplish with this particular document was just to outline what the city is doing in terms of data and privacy. What are our existing policies, where they're at, are they adequate, that type of thing. And as I did, being fairly new to the city, I set up time with legal Jenna Finnegan, and I sat down in late October, and she provided a lot of good information. It's contained in the document. I won't go through it by means, but a lot of the focus now becomes on social media, and is the city liable for data in social media that we post? And until recently, there was no precedent in legal standings as to what we're liable for. And so that was kind of the outstanding issue that we wanted to kind of vet out, if you would. So I have been talking with some resources and some vendors. Archive Social is a vendor that provides services that allows us to go out to social media and pull requested data if we have a Freedom of Information Act request. And the question became, from a legal perspective, is that something we have to acknowledge and follow through with? And again, as I said, until recently, there wasn't really a legal precedence for that, but now there is. So I tried to set up some time with legal again, just to review our city stance on social media. And of course, the holidays kind of, slowed things down a bit. So I do have a meeting set up with her on Friday, and we're going to review what progress has been made in the legal aspects towards that. So it does sound like we do have a need to be able to retain, store, and access those records, because we do city business within social media content. And that's really, I'm just, going to be working with legal to find out if we have the approval to move forward, to be able to utilize processes and potential software to be able to accommodate those requests if we get them. So that's kind of a nutshell. Some of the information I had contained in the document was just other people's renditions of situations where they've had to collect data, what the legal standing was. It does kind of emphasize the fact that we are going to be required to do that type of thing if we do get those types of requests. So any questions? Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, very good. Mark, let me just say I'd like to touch base with Ravi on this, and maybe we can arrange a brief call with you to see what questions and comments we may have for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'll touch base with Ravi and get back to you on that then.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Okay, if there's no other questions or comments, we'll move on to the 5G cellular communications. You were Jacob.
Yeah, I don't really have any updates at this time beyond what we talked about last time.
Yeah, same here. I haven't had a chance to touch base with Alderman Matthey on that and see if he had any further information to add, or even able to set up another meeting with the subcommittee to kind of go over kind of where we're at today and kind of fill in some of those questions. But yeah, there really is no other updates based on the last meeting's minutes.
Hey, I don't know if this is helpful or not, but I was reading an article today about like 5G use and like utilities for like water and electric and things like that. And the article was interesting in the fact that it was, it was talking about all the hurdles that you have to go through to even like get to the point where you can use 5G. And this article specifically was recommending like having a 5G platform approach rather than like trying to apply 5G to different like use cases. So I don't know what research you guys have been doing, but I thought that that was an interesting perspective. So I just wanted to throw it out there as, maybe something to look into. That was just one article I read, but it was an interesting read.
Yeah, no, I'd be certainly interested in reading through that and passing that on to our Innovation Alliance that is really kind of heading up the 5G project for the area. And really, I think that's where we're at still is trying to get a true definition of what it means for us. How can we leverage that technology? How can we leverage smart cities and use that platform? But I know there has been some conversation on some vendors that are kind of doing that same approach. And it kind of remains to be seen where we go with that, but it's certainly early in that conversation. But yeah, certainly if you can forward that to myself, I'll get that to everybody.
Okay.
Good. Anything else on 5G?
Nope, that's all I had.
Okay. Current state of technology with the city. Jennifer, anything you'd like to say about that?
I think that like, I don't know if we can just strike that off the agenda, or, Craig, I don't know if we have another item that we want to add underneath, that kind of heading of like current state of technology. But I know that that was primarily focused on the Microsoft renewal, and now that that's done, maybe we have something to replace it, but if not, then maybe we just need to strike that off the agenda moving forward.
Yeah, so I did leave it on there intentionally as a placeholder, but I do plan, and we touched on it a little bit last week, we'll talk about it under item B, which is our strategic plan. I think that strategic plan would fall under the current state of technology menu, and then that's something that I think last month we talked about, both you and Eric kind of being involved in that process. And, so next month we'll move IT strategy underneath that and actually have something to talk about and review. So yeah, I don't have anything else to add for the current state of technology. I'll hold that until item B.
Okay, moving on to city infrastructure. Nothing really to update on the street lighting. Robbie did communicate that he has nothing new there, nor have I. So it's where we were last month. And as far as the smart water metings and intelligent traffic signaling, we've really done nothing there. Craig, is there anything you'd like to address about those?
Not so much in the way of smart water meters. We are looking at expanding our current wireless water meter network, which maybe doesn't qualify under the smart water meters topic here, but we are looking to expand that. It's a 900 megahertz frequency that is going to be used citywide to collect water meters and water meter readings without having to, at this point, we have to drive around, different areas up and down the street to get those readings. Some places actually we still have to obviously go in and do manual readings, but those are hopefully phasing out soon. But yeah, what this will do is even prevent the need for staff to drive around and get readings that way. They'll be collected and collected in a main database where we can do that reporting from. We have a couple of those, in operation now and testing, and hope to roll out many more this year is the plan. So again, not so much a smart water meter, but certainly expanded capabilities for our current water meter system. There will be, more capability certainly with that, where we can get certainly more accurate readings, more real-time readings. So there may be some opportunity to do some analytics on data, on a daily basis instead of a weekly or a monthly basis that we do now. So, but yeah, that's it. As far as intelligent traffic signaling, I do not have any further updates on that one.
Okay, any other comments or questions on city infrastructure? No? Then, so have we already covered IT strategic plan progress and saying it'll just be moved up next month?
It will, but I do want to spend some time talking about what that is for us, kind of where we're at in that process, what we've done so far, and just kind of bring everybody up to speed. And then at that point, Jennifer and Eric, Mark and I can continue to work as a subcommittee to kind of keep pushing that along. Mark and I are doing quite a bit of work with our third-party vendor. And I'll just kind of go right into it, but we have partnered with a company called Infotech Research, and they're a international company, but they're one of the leading IT research companies out there. And they're based on standard COBIT 5 framework that a lot of people are familiar with. It's the standard IT infrastructure and methodologies that are needed for managing an IT department. And we've started the progress with them on our IT strategy. It's going to be a 3-year strategy that really defines what we're doing as an IT department, and making sure that everything that we do from an IT department relates back to a business goal. And there's been many diagnostics. We started this process right around July, I think. And there's a number of diagnostics reports that we ran and started with. The first one hinges on a CEO, CIO business study. And that's basically a survey in a nutshell. It's a survey that I took, and it's a survey that City Manager Gleason took. And that really does compare, what his thoughts are for IT and what my thoughts are IT. See where we compare, see where we're different, what those gaps are. It spurs conversation, why there were gaps or why we were the same. And it really got us in a really good spot, on a common understanding of where we're at, where we want to be. Got a lot of good information and feedback from him and are able to move forward with that. The next diagnostic report that we ran was a business vision diagnostic. And that was sent out to all the department heads throughout the city and first level supervisors in some cases for the bigger departments. And that study asked basically the questions of what IT means for that department. How are we accomplishing their goals? Where do we fall down? What do they like to see in the future? Things like that. It's just a general gauge of, IT in the current city environment. We also tend to get into, at that point, some of the questions about, what's coming up in your department in the next 1, 2, 3 years from an IT perspective. And that starts to plan out those bigger goals or initiatives that we're going to need to meet. The next study that we ran was a departmental study. So it was sent to all of the IT staff, and really it was a brief study that or survey that went out to ask, what their current role is, and of the COBIT framework. So it kind of hones in on the 45 IT principles of the COBIT framework. It kind of breaks those out, and it talks to what their level of understanding is of the importance of that and how effective we are meeting that principle. So that was really a good gauge, within our department to kind of get some feedback from them, and maybe even have some realization on some areas that we didn't have information on, but got a true understanding, a basic understanding, I would say true understanding, basic understanding of where our department is mentally. What do we consider important? What do we consider that we're good at and not good at and deficient in? All that kind of goes into, help building the IT strategy. From there, spent, a couple meetings with City Manager Gleason, Assistant City Manager Tyus, to identify current city business goals. What are the goals of the city? What's the mission of the city? Everything starts there. And we kind of took the ones that were currently on the table and kind of modified those a bit to meet some of the future needs that the current administration is wanting to pursue. From there, again, with all three of those diagnostics in place, we're able to identify, what the IT goals are from that, mainly from the business vision study, by identifying, certain projects or initiatives that are going to be coming or currently in process. But really identify, all those IT initiatives. And then we relate those back to a business goal or multiple business goals. And every IT initiative has to match, to at least one of those goals. Otherwise, why are we doing it? We have to question that. From there, we're able to assemble semi-prioritized list of projects, and we did actually a couple different diagnostics on that as well to determine, how can we prioritize these initiatives. And it sounds easy, but it wasn't. And we went through multiple steps and did they call them low, medium, high charts. You've probably seen them where it's just you simply try and break them down 5 different ways and rate them high, medium, low, and you run a little algorithm that kind of calculates a score from there. But we've identified just 40 initiatives to start one. And those are kind of the top ones that are coming to mind. But I know we've got, probably 100 total initiatives that we really could have identified, but that would have been too much. So we really focused on kind of the top 40 initiatives, rated them through a low, medium, high scale using a first set of criteria, which were basically the IT goals that we identified. So, of the business goals, we've got 4 or 5 business goals. Then I extrapolated 4 or 5 IT goals from that. We took that list of IT priority or IT initiatives and prioritized them based on each goal and how they met each goal from an IT perspective. I probably should have a slide up because I'm sure it's going to make more sense if you actually look at it. So I apologize on that. And then it comes out with a scale and you get a rating. And it came out fairly accurate. I think there's a couple of them you might want to have adjusted, but we then took that same list of initiatives and we used a different set of priorities. We grouped all of the IT goals into one bucket, and then we added on, just the sheer budget, the ability to perform it, the current skill set that we have in the department, and then the critical need, if there is an actual requirement, a business requirement, or a regulatory requirement that we have to do this. Being a government, unfortunately, we have a lot of unfunded mandates that usually get pushed down to the city and county levels. So there's things that we just have to do, and we have to make do with what we've got and get it done. So we reevaluated all of those initiatives based on those criteria, sorted them back out, reprioritized them, and thankfully they came out relatively close to the same priority scale. We're kind of working through that a little bit more and trying to make sure that actually fits with what we think it is. I mean, there's still room, just because you're running it through these charts, that there's still room to say, no, that doesn't look right. Let's adjust it here or there. And we've done that. That's kind of where we're at currently, and that's where got us to right before the holidays, and kind of got bogged down with some details there that I can talk about later. So that's currently where we're at in the strategic plan. During this process, of course, we're building an executive summary and a full IT strategic plan from that. And one of the other objectives that we need to do from this now is, once we have that prioritized list of IT initiatives, then we can go into each one of those and add details. So, who's involved, who's the stakeholders, what's the time frame to get this done, what's the budget situation, do we have any risks or anything that go along with each one of those initiatives, and get that detailed down. That's kind of the bigger part of the strategy. Once we have that done, certainly at that point, and probably even before then, we can probably share, with the subcommittee, both Jennifer and Eric, some of the information that we're working on right now, get their feedback, see if we're heading in the right direction, if they've got any feedback or questions for us. But my intention is to keep that subcommittee involved in this process. It's always great to have another set of eyes on some of the stuff, and Mark and I, get in and work on some of the stuff, and our eyes starts crossing and have to take a break because it gets a little deep sometimes. But it'll be really nice to have another set of eyes to kind of help us along and look at some of that information. The next diagnostic that we do plan on running, that really does coincide with the strategic plan, is an IT organizational design study. And that is taking our current topology in the department, which right now is essentially a flat level structure where it's myself as the director and then everybody else underneath. We do not have any second level frontline managers or anything like that. So the next diagnostic is going to be another IT focused survey that goes out to begin to identify workloads by each person in the department, find out what they're doing, how much time they're spending on it. And that will in turn help us identify again, what it is we're doing that we don't need to do. You know, being in the IT department now for 25 years, I know we've just inherited a lot. You know, and it's natural that people tend to hold on to products or services, and you know, we can do it easy, you know, but should we be doing it? That's always the question. You know, we need to become more streamlined, more agile. A perfect example of that we're working through right now, Mark is heading up, is our enterprise management services contract. You know, that's something that's relatively simple, and at this point cost effective to have that fully managed by someone else. You know, I shouldn't have to have one of my techs running around troubleshooting printers or toners and replacing things in printers. We can handle that through a managed service pretty easily. You know, so it's really going to be a process of identifying some of those key services that, you know, again, we're doing that we don't need to do, or we can do differently or better. So, you know, moving forward, that's going to be one of the next steps. From there, you know, we will be able to identify, you know, which of those workloads are critical, which ones of those are enterprise centric and that we have to maintain in house. You know, which one of those, you know, can we augment some other way, again, through managed services or maybe even internships and co-ops. You know, we have not, in the history of the city of Bloomington for IT, we have not had, you know, IT interns or co-ops, and we have a wealth of resources and knowledge, you know, in the community with both universities and you know, with State Farm and all that. We've got a lot of tech in the city that we should be tapping into and could very easily. So, you know, that's another one of the charges that Mark has, you know, is going to be to help us kind of down that route and define what that is and how that looks, and how we can leverage, you know, some of those resources to augment and do more with what we've got. You know, the goal of this obviously is to make our department, you know, the most efficient we can be. You know, we're not in a situation where we're looking to cut existing staff. We are extremely short-staffed now, so we're going to need everybody that we've got. This will be, again, adding positions or adding services, hopefully in alternate ways, but may still also require, you know, additional FTEs at some point as well. But again, that organizational design study that we're going to be rolling into here next month is going to start telling some of that story a little clearer. So that was a lot. Let me know if you guys have any questions on that or where we're at.
How long does the last study take? The organizational design one?
Well, most of this, yeah, sorry, I'm make sure I wasn't muted. Most of these studies are self-paced. We have a guided implementer that kind of works with us. The organizational design one, I'd have to look, but I think it's projected, you know, anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks.
Very good. That's the only question I had. If you have documents you could share with us, I'd like to read them.
Yeah, one of the neat things about Infotech Research, if you have or haven't heard from them in the past, they've got a wealth of information and a technical library that we as members of that can now share out to anybody, whether they're members or not. So, you know, a lot of these blueprints and studies and things like that I'm referring to, I can forward to, you know, anybody that wants to on this commission, and you would have access to it for a limited length of time, I think, to see all that detail. And certainly we'll be sharing with you, you know, our details and you know.
Okay, that's what I wanted to.
Yeah.
Our documents, I would hope we have. And
oh yeah. Yeah, and I do hope, you know, my intention is, you know, I think you and Jennifer and myself and Mark can schedule another meeting, you know, on some occasion and kind of go over this in more detail for sure.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Craig, did I hear you say your staff is 45 people?
No, we're at 10 full-time positions right now and 3 contracts.
Okay. Is that across all departments or just within the?
Yes.
all
Yeah, that's
departments.
the IT department. We support the entire city with that staff.
And is Infotech at all looking at what the purpose and involvement of a technology commission like us should be?
Not specifically. That is a good question. You know, we've asked that of our implementer because it was kind of a challenge, you know, coming into this role and trying to define. I think we're still trying to define what this commission should be charged with. You know, whether it's more public facing and citizen facing technology or internal or a mix or whatever that mix is. So I did float that question to them, and honestly, the technology commission is kind of a newer thing for at least the implementer that I was speaking to at the time. So he didn't really have a whole lot of feedback, but I'm sure that we can tap into them a little bit more and see if there's any additional feedback they have, or you know, I think maybe even just going through the IT strategy, we're going to begin to identify, you know, if people aren't familiar with the COVID-5 framework, it's 45 different IT areas, and there's really opportunity to dive into each one of those. I mean, there's so much detail there. And again, I wish I had a slide, but I will get that for next time, so we've got it easier to talk about. You know, but like IT organizational design is one of those 45 components. IT strategy is just one of those 45 components, and it goes well into asset management, software lifecycle management, and, you know, all those different elements. So I do think, you know, as we progress, you know, we're going to need all the help we can get, and I think there's opportunity for this commission to take a role in working on some of those principles.
Hey, Craig, the only question I have, so you touched on like several surveys, or I think you called them diagnostics. Is this strategic plan considering, or will it consider like what the citizens of Bloomington would want to see from an IT perspective? Like, will there be any like community survey of like, hey, I'd really like it to be easier to pay my water bill, or, you know, whatever?
No, the IT strategy in this case is specifically organizational driven. It's what the IT department needs to be to meet the needs for the city of Bloomington as a city government, not necessarily for outreaching to customers at that point. Now, there are elements of that, you know, whether there's one or multiple initiatives that touch into that. So, for example, you know, the business goals, you know, there are business goals that say, you know, we want to be innovative and you know, outreaching and provide an easier method for citizens to do business with the city. So that is identified as a business goal, and that does flow down into an IT goal to make sure that we're staying you know, innovative and keeping systems up to date, you know, things like that. So I guess in a way we are, but there is no direct outreach specifically for the IT strategic plan for anybody outside of the city yet.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments for Craig? Okay, very informative, Craig. Okay, then we'll move on to old business. Do we have any old business to discuss? Nothing on the agenda here. Okay, new business, in-person meeting requirements. Go ahead,
Yep.
Craig.
All right, so I have a little bit of information on this, but this is part of our virtual meeting strategy. You know, again, a lot of this comes down from the state of Illinois, and you know, our legal team, you know, works on this, and through that and combination of our city manager's executive order, we come up with these rules and requirements that we need to conduct these virtual meetings. One of those requirements that I found is that we do need to have one board member present at the location posted for the meeting to make sure that we're we're in compliance. So Gary has graciously offered to be present for this meeting.
This meeting.
So I guess the question is, moving forward, as long as we have at least one person here present, then we'll be in compliance for this virtual situation that we're in. Not sure how long that will last, but until the foreseeable future, we need to operate under those guidelines.
So what I'd like to propose is anyone willing to volunteer for coming into each meeting. And I'm sitting here in the boardroom with Craig and Mark. We're a good 12, 15, 20 feet apart. And if no one's willing to take on that role solely, we can open it for discussion. But what I'd like to recommend is we just do it on a rotating basis, alphabetically, by age, however. Any comments on that?
I'm fine with that. I just want to have enough lead time to schedule.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too. I just need to know ahead of time to plan.
Yeah, that works with me as well. I'll volunteer.
Okay, Craig, is that something we need to vote on? Or just administratively do?
Yeah, I think we just administratively do that. If you want, at this point, we can tentatively schedule the next 3 months. That way I know who's going to be here, and we can kind of work with them, make sure they've got the right protocol that's needed for coming in.
Alphabetically, by age? How do you
I'll
guys
go
want to
first.
do it?
Is that Jacob?
Yeah.
Okay. Jacob's got February. And how about March?
I can do March.
Okay. And we'll hit April.
I'll do April, sure.
Is that Eric?
What's the date of that? April's fine. What's the date of that one? Hold on, I'll find it.
I don't have the list here.
7th?
7th, yes. Okay.
And we'll get Ravi and Robert at the next meeting to sign on.
Okay. We'll sign them up, let them know, see what they say.
I'm gonna say, since they're not here, don't we just get a picket for them? That's how that works.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right. So I got Ravi for May and Robert for June.
All right.
And hopefully we're done by then. That'd be nice. We can all meet in person.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Any other new business anyone would like to bring up?
I do have one thing that I do want to mention, just let the group know. So I don't know who may or may not know, but in the month of December, we unfortunately lost a good friend and coworker of 20 plus years, our system administrator, Ed Frells. Suddenly, of course. So obviously, that took a big toll on our department. A lot of people, still obviously not dealing with it very well. So that is a struggle for our department. Mark and I are currently working to see if we can get additional staff in on a contract basis temporarily to kind of meet some of those needs. Unfortunately, with the longevity that Ed did possess, he had a lot of knowledge, a lot of institutional knowledge that unfortunately didn't get fully collected. So we're kind of going through that, a lot of troubleshooting and finding out things unfortunately without much information. So so that's a process, and that really underlines what we're doing from an IT strategy, which is going to start getting into the full DR and disaster recovery and documentation. But yeah, as of right now, Mark and I are working with some contract partners to see what kind of skill sets are out there and available. Again, we're looking to get a couple positions in right away, so we can just start getting them in and starting to get some systems taken care of and maintained. Longer range plans, we are looking, and it kind of depends on maybe what comes out of the organizational design, but again, looking at ways that we can do things differently, better, more efficiently. And I know there's a couple options that we have for like a managed service, where we have a body or a contracted position that's here and functional, but then we can also tap into that company's resources for any specialized knowledge that we may need. So that could be an opportunity there as well. We also, one of our program analysts took a job elsewhere. His last day is this Friday, so we're in the process of backfilling that position as well. So while we were already short-staffed and kind of behind, unfortunately, we're even further behind after December here. So just wanted to keep everybody up to date on that. We're working through that the best we can. We did get some information back from one of our vendors that actually right now some of the skill sets that we're looking for are unfortunately very hard to find because of our local climate, which is actually a good thing. Rivian is taking up a lot of the IT talent in the area, and a lot of the good talent is getting paid very well at Rivian, so it's going to be kind of hard to compete with that. But I think there's plenty out there, and we will actually. I think we just right before the meeting we got some candidates that we're going to be reviewing. So keep fingers crossed, and hopefully we'll get some good talent in.
Sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Sounds very tough.
Yeah, likewise, sorry for the loss, and good luck on filling those positions. Any other new business to discuss? No? Someone want to make a motion that we adjourn? Can you hear me, Craig? Oh, I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second. I couldn't get to the mute button.
Okay. Can we take a roll call on that? I don't remember.
I don't think we do on that. If there's anybody objecting.
Just all in favor?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, meeting adjourned at 4:45.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So,
Be
See you
safe.
later.
Be safe until next month.
Yep, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
be in the building next time.
Yep.